Hi, folks. Excuse me. Slight issues at my end because of which the earlier trade setup got disrupted. But let's do a bit of a quick rapid fire so that we can wrap up this in time. So first, the global news flow. Jerome Powell says no guarantee for soft landing, but U.S. decision can be avoided. Stocks in Asia and U.S. futures predominantly maybe dip marginally on the inflation anchors, but looks steady. Xi Jinping has declared that COVID zero is the most economic and effective policy for China. This is important simply because if people were thinking that China is now opening up and that might augur well for supply chain issues or etc., that may not necessarily be the case. This could remain very unpredictable from a Chinese perspective, from a world perspective, the reliability on China. In fact, almost every second guest who comes on air actually speaks about this fairly positively from an India and the other Asian countries' point of view. I think we maybe with Temur Beg, who comes in today, or somebody else, was of the opinion that at least 50% of the industries or 50% of the global corporations might go back to China, but the remaining 50% might look at diversification, which is actually a pretty big piece as well for the rest of Asia. Nevertheless, U.S. markets were flattish. No great shakes in other things except for the uh, for the dollar index, which is at 105, and Bitcoin marginally slipped below 20,000 at a point of time as well. As of 7:30, it was at 20,014. Uh, SGX Nifty indicates a start which could be marginally in the green, so a flattish start to be very honest, about 0.7, 0.27, 0.28%. So a flattish start anticipated. Yesterday's market breadth was nothing to write home about. Specific stocks based on news may have done okay, but no, nothing too dramatic on the market breadth front. Some stocks on which the mood has been disrupted continue to tank, including the likes of Zomato and RBL Bank, which just keep on falling every single day. Now, what's the trade setup there for today? We may start flattish, but the focus will shift to the monthly derivatives expiry in the second half. And I think 15,700 remains the crucial support. And forget about, I think almost every technical trader out there locks on to 15,700 as the key support. So the range of 15,900 to 15,700 might well be the range in which the market behaves. Bank Nifty, remember, has been underperforming the last two sessions, and 33,000 is seen as a crucial support for the Bank Nifty. Now, if Bank Nifty takes support there, if Nifty takes support at 15,700, then you might well have, who knows, a bit of a up move coming in as well. Remember, July traditionally is a fairly okay month from an S&P 500 perspective as well traditionally. So all of that augurs well. Oil upstream is holding out and is done really well. Probably for today's session, from what I hear from people who look at derivatives very closely, that they might end the series on a flat note. Oil upstream, that is. So Reliance, ONGC, Oil India, they've all been on a tear in today's session. At least derivative experts believe that there might be a bit of a flattish move. Let's wait and watch. What are the stocks to focus on today? The stock of the day likely will be MCX. SEBI's allowed FPIs in exchange traded commodity derivatives. FPIs will be allowed to trade in all non-agricultural commodity derivatives and select non-agricultural benchmark indices as well. To begin with, FPIs will be allowed only in cash settled contracts. So various rules and regulations around this, but this is something that has been long spoken about. In fact, 2 days ago in one of our editor meetings, we were all of the opinion that while it's on the agenda, but this has been long spoken about for such a long time that it may not necessarily the light of the day, but it has. Does it bring about immediate uptick in business for MCX? No. But is this positive? Yes, and therefore MCX may react. Let's wait and watch. I do believe there could be a bit of a reaction here, which is why I think it could well be the stock of the day. What else? Indus Tower, there is likelihood of a block deal of 1.89 crore shares, maybe up to a 3% premium to the current market price or yesterday's closing price. So therefore, watch out for Indus. Watch out for Delta Corp and Nazara, because the decision on GST rates for online gaming has been pushed back to August, I believe, by August 15, or maybe July 15, but I think it's August. But be that as it may, it's not come in yesterday. Therefore, don't know whether it is indeed 28% or otherwise, and therefore, who knows? There could be a bit of a move into both of these, particularly Nazara. So let's wait and watch. Asahi India and Saint-Gobain. DGTR has recommended imposing anti-dumping duty on imports of clear float glass and Ministry of Finance will take a final decision on this recommendation. So it's not a done deal as yet. The final decision is yet to be taken. Suffice to say that there might be a decision taken as per the recommendation, and I don't know the quantum of the business per se that benefits out of this, because it's a lot of moving parts here, right? What's the quantum of imports that were happening any which ways from these regions, etc., etc. But usually this happens at the behest of the companies making a plea to the ministries that, hey, look into this issue, because it's a bit of a business dampener for them and unjust. And in that case, because there is a recommendation made, you would want to presume that maybe this could be positive for Asahi India as well as Saint Gobain. So maybe, just maybe, these stocks react today. There's a large deal in MTAR Technologies, as a result of which the stock was down in the session yesterday. Now we know, the sellers notwithstanding, it was expected that there will be mutual fund action, and HDFC Mutual Fund indeed has bought about 2 lakh shares. Seganti India Mauritius also bought about 3 lakh shares. So the buyers are institutions which have bought into MTAR. Remember, the stock was down about 7%. If you remember the advanced decline plate, MTAR Technologies was amongst the top losers in the session yesterday on the Nifty 500, the NSE 500. And now at least the buyers, and therefore could be interesting today. Some corporate events include Federal Bank, which will consider fundraising via issue of securities, or Hindustan Copper, which might consider fundraising via shares or NCD issue, or REC, which might consider a proposal for a bonus issue. So do watch out for these. Some AGMs include an HDFC, Dr. Lal PathLabs, Indian Hotels, Happiest Minds, Lotus Labs, and KC International, as well as CAMPS. So these are a few AGMs, and maybe the commentary from them could well be watched out for. Lastly, a couple of brokerage calls. Jefferies has come out with a note on Crompton Consumer. They have a buy with a target price of 490. They say the stock has corrected 25% despite the robust margin resilience. The potential to strengthen its appliances franchise with Butterfly acquisition. The near-term EPS could be impacted due to higher debt and lower margins, but the medium-term catalysts, according to Jefferies, are strong, which is why they have a buy call there. Motilal Oswal has a note on Ultratech, when they say it's a buy. Again, the rationale seems to be the same, that buy into the cheap valuations, or relatively cheap valuations, because of a correction. So the target price, of course, has been lowered, by the way, viewers, at 6450 versus 7825. So that's a sharp gash. But and it's based on 15 times FY24 EV EBITDA valuations. Now you decide whether you want to buy a stock based on an estimate of EV EBITDA of FY24 at 15 times, in which case maybe Motilal's logic could be correct. They are saying that the correction in the stock seems to factor in concerns. The current profit estimates factor in lower pricing power concerns and lower profitability. And the key trigger for all cement stocks, including Ultratech, could be energy cost decline. Well, will energy costs come off immediately? Maybe not. Frankly, while other commodity costs may have come off, we know what's happening with both oil as well as coal, and they are sky high. And there is a lot of belief, or a fair degree of belief, that Europe, because of the higher gas prices, might keep on loading up on coal as well as a source of energy, and therefore coal prices are still trading around their recent highs, or probably still trading at highs. So therefore, don't quite know when the energy price relief will come in, but it's a pertinent point that might be the key trigger for some of the cement names as well. So do track that particular aspect. Net viewers, volatile day probably in the second half. If not for the index, then at least for specific stocks. Watch out for the Bank Nifty support at 33,000, and Nifty, of course, at 15,700. Apologies for the small for the internet fluctuation today, but I hope this gives you some summary of what to watch out for in the session today. Thanks so much for tuning in.